Pete, I felt like we needed to have a chat this evening. No ads, no sponsor, no graphic on the screen, nothing. But I did want to get kind of something on wax, if you will. So here we are.
Yeah, Zach, here we are. It's been an interesting, crazy, wild ride in the past 30 hours for us. And I think we're pretty much at the tail end of what's been a wild saga with us in the middle on the app, the website X, formerly known as Twitter. And I want to be respectful of our audience, Zach, knowing that people are coming into this from a number of different places and different levels of understanding of what's happened. Some have hung on every tweet of what has happened here. Others have caught bits and pieces of it on a message board or other social media, text messages, whatever. And then others might have no idea what we're talking about. So I want you in your own words to kind of set the table here and to the best of your ability, describe just what exactly happened yesterday afternoon.
So I think we really need to kind of start off, with some background. I think I could because I have gotten a couple DMs here and there from people around the staff, not on the staff, but you know, basically I have throughout Travis Ford's time here at SLU. I've gotten to talk to him on multiple occasions. I've gotten to know uh, you know people in his family and become friendly and friends. And so when all of this hit, I expected, I guess, some blowback. And yeah, I get it. I understand. Um, but I just hope that I wanted to get my side out. I said I sent back messages as best I could to those who did send me messages, kind of, what the heck, I guess is the real Cliff Notes gist of the messages. Um, but really what had happened was there at some point on Monday, it was after we released the episode. Usually our Mondays, there's a lot of the Twitter is back up. SLU Twitter is back on Mondays, and I guess a burner account started DMing and replying to people like Jack Godar, West Pine Bills, and I would assume others. I believe others as well, but those are the two I know. Um, just kind of harassing. Um, and then um, another account, another burner account shows up, and it's under Sean McDonald. The first one was called Stone Cold Steve Austin, Cold Steve 22 172, and it another one shows up. It's Sean McDonald and then numbers, um, and both of them kind of are going in at the same time. It all very much got mixed up. Those two very much they I don't know if they ever interacted, but both of their replies got intertwined in threads.
They
And
started coming at us and
yes,
these other accounts all at the same time, basically.
correct. Um, but anyway, so as that's kind of building up, I believe, I don't even think anybody cared to look into the DMs, the main burner account, that Stone Cold Steve Austin, until this second burner account showed up and kind of started really pushing things. And so we were smartened up by two different people that Stone Cold Steve Austin account was actually uh, connected to the main account of Travis Ford's son, Shane. And I was kind of sick of this trend of burner accounts and just random people kind of just all they do is just DM and tweet it replies. And so I tweeted out what I knew. And yeah, I in the defense, I want to be clear before we really get into it, that Sean McDonald Twitter account was not Shane Ford. That Travis confirmed on the coaches show that the Stone Cold account was Shane, but the Sean McDonald account was not. And I don't. This is not devolving into an apology, but I do feel regretful that I connected the Sean McDonald Twitter account to Shane Ford. Even
Well,
if
I do want to go. Oh, sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
Well, no, I don't know if it's it, you know, I don't know if it's someone, again, I don't know who this is. I don't know who Sean McDonald is. What I do know is I believe them to know a lot about Billiken basketball and a lot about the Billiken basketball fan base, just from their tweets, now deleted Twitter account.
Mhm.
But essentially, they knew that there was the message board and that, information and rumors fly all the time over there on the message board. Um, so yeah, I know they know things, but I don't believe that to be Shane Ford. And I don't think, and I want to make that clear,
Mhm.
because this isn't, it's not, again, I'm not here to, cry, whine, moan, bitch. I'm just here to kind of tell exactly how I saw things.
So I do want to be fair to you. In your initial tweet, you said, "I'm done playing nice. The burner account, Stone Cold Steve Austin, belongs to Shane Ford, assuming Sean McDonald, blah, whatever
Yes.
numbers,
And that
is
was,
also owned by him too." And so you tagged both of those accounts. So
yes.
to be fair to you, you didn't say clearly they're both him,
Yeah.
but we made the assumption based on the fact that both of these
It,
guys started chirping at the same time.
yeah. And that's unfortunate. And I feel bad that the two were linked. And, if it turns out to be some Kentucky sports fan that,
Hmm.
came as sports that it is what it is. I'm gonna take those sources close to the athletic department in when they you know say that the other account was not him, because they admitted.
Hmm.
And I guess kudos to them, for stepping up and saying it was.
Yeah, and so after Coach Ford addressed it, you tweeted again. Travis confirmed that the burner account Stone Cold Steve Austin was indeed his son. We have
Yeah.
been told Sean McDonald is not related to Travis. So this was in, a couple hours later in the aftermath. Both of these tweets got seen by a lot of people. I think like what I want people to understand here is like once we tweeted this out, this blew up way bigger than I think anyone would have expected, right? Like it just got really big. It got way beyond what we ever thought it would. So a lot of people saw both of these tweets, and I don't think at any point it was us saying like they're both him, or any. It was just like there are these things happening. This clearly one of them is the coach's son. He's involved with this. Now, the other thing I want to make clear, just in the initial details here, is that when Ford did address the comments, he didn't say which handle was his son. He said like apparently he's got a social media account I didn't know about. It was something
Mhm.
like that. So he didn't call out by name, but it's pretty clear what was what.
Yeah.
Especially because that Sean McDonald account, whoever that is, kept going into the next day and went through the morning before deleting that account.
Yeah.
And
That
we took some
was,
screenshots, but the account, the actual tweets themselves are gone now.
yeah.
Um, you know,
I
but
just,
yeah,
yeah, it's, yeah. I mean, look, and the wildest stuff came from Sean, and I don't think there was a single post from the Stone Cold Burner account that was, political or controversial. Like
right.
And I want to say, like, I kind of laughed because we're going to get into the Coach Ford's, comments on it, but I kind of would have, I kind of wish that, Travis would have just said, yeah, Shane's fiery, like his dad. Like, I told him he doesn't need to come to my defense, and but don't use a burner next time. Just use your regular handle, right? Like, I just kind of
Right.
thought that would have been yeah, funny, and I kind of would have been like, yeah, okay, get in the mix it up. But
Yeah, so I guess we can get into his
yeah,
comments. And like you said, I mean Shane himself, the weirdest comments really came from the Sean McDonald account. Like
right.
Shane quit in the scheme of things now that we're almost 30 hours on.
I
He
don't even
quit
know what.
relatively early.
Yeah,
And
I
Sean McDonald kept going and it was really weird stuff. Like some of it was weirdly specific. Like you said, it seems like somebody who's at least very wired into the goings on of this program and where fans are talking about and where they're talking about it and things like that. But he also dropped some weird details. Like he used the figure 10 million,
yeah.
which is the high end figure that we've kind of speculated about before in terms of a buyout.
So I mean, is that it's one of those things where
Yeah,
it's kind of like the police officer, like they're trying to catch the Zodiac killer, and it's like, oh, does he actually have the details, or was it in the newspaper? Did he read about it online?
sure. Yeah, that I know. Yeah, and now that we don't know who this is,
No,
we can't say for sure,
no.
but some odd details, some odd directions he took that. And man, oh man, once this, especially A10 Twitter, once the other people from other schools in our league caught it, they really had a field day with that guy, and the whole story, it really became a big thing. It got picked up all over the place. We just it did not expect some of that. But before, we and I don't know how much you want to get into numbers or where this was shared or anything like that. I'll let that be your call. But before we even decide that, I want to talk about Ford going to the coaches show immediately afterward with Rammer. It was at Humphreys. It was broadcast on KMOX, and I'm going to paraphrase here, Zach, because what I did is I went back and listened to the coaches show,
I
and
can't believe you did this.
I transcribed the entirety of his response to Rammer when he was asked about this. And I think it felt like I don't know how much Rammer wanted to talk about it, but I think Ford did want to address it. And I'm glad he did. I
Yeah,
think either ignoring it or lashing out or anything would have been the wrong tactic here. So I think he did the right thing. But I'm gonna paraphrase the gigantic block of text that I dropped in the notes here, which, apologies to your eyes for having to even see it. But basically, he said he left practice at 5:45, and I'm going to quote him now. He says, "As I'm running off the court, our SID, Sports Information Director Brian Kunderman said we have an issue. He quickly explains it to me as I'm walking to my car. I look down at my phone, and my phone's been blown up. My wife and a whole lot of other people." And he took a pause here and he said, "I've got to calm down." And so I didn't know if he was talking about himself in the moment
yeah.
or talking about himself, like in the moment of the show or in the moment of him finding out. I thought that was interesting though. So he said, I find out what's going on. And then he talks about his views on social media. He says it's a whole other issue. We could talk about it for days. I don't understand it all. I use it more as a positive. I've never understood negativity there, but other people use it that way. But as you mentioned, my son must have had an account that obviously I didn't know about, and he feels terrible. I talked to my wife on the way here. He feels absolutely terrible. I think his heart was in the right place. I would have said, don't do it. And, they're my kids. I've been in this business 28 years. Someone saying something negative about me wouldn't be the first time. And we've talked about it as a family on many occasions, and it's really easy for me to ignore. I pay no attention to it. But unfortunately, I have people who tell me about it sometimes. And then he goes on to talk about, friends from back home in his town in Kentucky where he's from, and his friends and family there seem to they're the ones he said who seem to get worked up the most. But he also said if you have kids, you understand this feeling. Um, about sticking up for your parents and the whole dynamic there. And if you don't, you might not understand that. But then he said it goes with his job, it goes with the territory. Um, and that as a family, they've had conversations about that before. And every once in a while, something like this happens. So He then goes on, Zach, to say, I've never understood people hiding behind social media. And he said, if you've got a problem with me, I'm here Monday at 6 at Humphreys. I'm right here. If you want to talk basketball, I'll talk basketball all night. You could even say you're the worst, and I'll say, okay, I can handle that. I've been doing this a long time as a player or coach, but I've never understood people who get personal with things. Um, he said it's fine to be mad about losing. And then he talked about, how they feel, how the team feels, how fans must feel. He understands that. But said it can't get personal, basically. And then he said he wants more positivity. He said we need the support. He said we expect this from Billiken fans. We need the support. We all need to get in the right direction. We need to get recruiting to go right. We need all of it. Um, I've never stood, I've never understood the negativity of being a fan on the other side of that. I've been a UK fan. I've been mad when things don't go well, but
I
I've
said
never grasped.
I've never been mad about.
I've never been mad. Oh yeah, that's right. I've never been too mad about it when things don't go well. I've never grasped the other side of it, gotten all the negativity. So he's just basically saying people go too far with the negativity, and he thinks it's unproductive. Is more or less what it is. He doesn't have any problem,
I
like look, he lets people say things about him, his team, whatever, but then he kind of brings it back to it getting personal, saying that his son feels terrible, his heart was in the right place. It's not the end of the world. He said in the grand scheme of things, it's a good learning lesson to not go hide behind something. Because he says right here, I don't know exactly what was said. I have no idea, but from what I heard, it wasn't terrible, but my phone was blowing up and things get personal. I told them if I don't let it bother me, don't let it bother them. And he just tries to calm things down. Look, I think his overall tone here was the right one. But go ahead, Zach. I cut you off.
no,
That's the
yeah,
gist of the quote.
yeah. I think there are a few parts in here that I just don't necessarily. I don't like. Again, I struggle with that. He doesn't really know exactly what happened, but he's reacting to something and giving
Yeah.
his, you know, I don't know. Uh, there's so much that just feels, you know, that I don't know about.
So,
Um,
so I want to one of the things that's interesting to me is he kept saying it was personal, right? And
yeah,
and one of the things that I've thought, especially because these things they came to us and Jack and West Pine Bills and some other people on Twitter. So I don't think it was a direct reaction to our show necessarily, but
right.
we got tied into the whole thing, because we were active on Twitter at the same time that this started popping up.
Mhm.
But it never felt like it was our show necessarily. It felt like it was people's comments on Twitter that were generating these replies from these burner accounts, right?
Yeah.
Shane's and the other one. And so I've never felt like we got personal on Twitter. There may be comments that we've made on our show that I think could
Yeah.
be taken as
And
such.
and I'll even sit here and recount them. Like
Yeah,
I don't like I think, personally speaking, like again, I think the all, like when I talk about the way he makes, talks on post game shows, I think like I said, it makes him come off unlikable. That could be a personal attack.
right.
I've said that I would not have been surprised if he would have, taken a sabbatical in the midst of the tragedy with Ford. That personal, but again, I these are things that second one is purely out of, it's not about winning and losing. I would have said that right after it happened. I think I did say
Yeah.
that the next year. Um, but you know, that's again, I wonder what he considers personal, because I do think there are people that think that talking about their job is personal,
Yeah.
and it can be. It's people talk about my job. I won't like it, but again, it's kind of a different arena to be into.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There are other instances in the past where I think about Brooks Ford's birthday party, the
yeah,
thing that has been,
Yeah.
There were photos shared. It was a time where people were locking down and COVID. It's the time when SLU had COVID restrictions. And then images from that birthday party came out. And then SLU was all of a sudden, the positive test shut the team down for like a month. And so we got into that at the time. And I
Yeah.
do wonder if something like that, because like there are a lot of public figures who are say anything you want about me, but leave my family out of it, right? Like leave my
Correct.
family out of it. And I think you and I have always been respectful of that, but this is the kind of when it comes to us, what are we supposed to do? Like as fans, as people who exist in this world,
Yeah.
we can't ignore this, right?
Right. I think, I think I think we ignore it if it's a matter of it's the decision is impacting our hobby. And that sounds so just lame. I think when you're just like when that event and that family event impacts the jobs of everyone else. I think it's a I don't know. Like I'm trying to it's impactful in our world. Too it impacts us. It impacts other Billiken fans. It impacts the other sports at SLU. You know, because you now haven't um you haven't made the NCAA tournament, right? That
Right.
certainly I think that's something to talk about in our world and in what we do. And I think, we did not break that story. We didn't, but I'm going to talk about it anytime that somebody mentions that we would have made the NCAA tournament had we not got shut down for a month. Like, I think that immediately has to come up. It has to. It has to be
Yeah.
talked about when you talk about that team.
Right. And so I think like kind of using those as examples, like those are the times where there's some ambiguity about whether or not what we've talked about on this show could be taken as quote unquote personal or skirting the boundary of, this is my family versus this is my profession and me as a public persona. Like that's I understand those things, but I think we've generally been on the right side of that question and really left it like what is relevant to, like you said, this basketball program, what we're interested in as fans, like I would never be like seeking out like what his kids are up to like on their own, like they're all in their 20s now or whatever, college age, young adults, like live your lives. I would never under any circumstances be seeking that out as something to like attack Ford over if I'm not mad or if I'm
And
not happy about how the season's going.
we're not building a student section cheer sheet over here.
Right, that's right.
Like,
Yeah, we're not like
I
we're
mean,
not the Cameron crazies. We're not like
we're
weirdos in a
we're just
student section.
no, I used to be, but
But
I
we're adults now,
yes, we're
and that's yeah,
reformed.
we're not doing that. So okay, so getting that out of the way, I think it just struck me as like most of what is going on here seems to be addressing, what people are saying on Twitter, right? So
You know,
I guess I want to circle back to Ford's comments, right? At the coach's show, and I do want to again give him a lot of credit for addressing it in the first place and in a
yeah,
pretty relaxed way. I thought his tone and just getting it all out there was a really, I think overall a solid way to handle it. I do think he got it wrong about this being truly personal.
mhm,
I consider it more professional, right? Like more like I think people are generally from what I'm seeing, and I like all of the other, slew Twitter people that we've mentioned. I think they're funny and smart and entertaining to read and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think they go at him personally. I think it is all a reflection of we're just not happy with what's going on the court
mhm.
and around the program right now, right? So I do think that's maybe a little bit incorrect. And I do think also the anonymity of social media. I don't know how much of that was a criticism of Shane in this instance, and how much was other people. But speaking from our end, um, you and I are open books. Like people see our faces if they watch YouTube every week. They hear
I
our
t-
voices every week. They
I
know
tell
our
too
first
much about
names.
myself.
We
I overshare.
we have our share. They know our shared Twitter handle. They know our Billikens.com handles, our own Twitter handles, our last names. I mean, like it's
They know what my
all
dog looks like.
they know our ages. I mean, like, so we're totally open books, and part of this might just be the him not knowing all the facts before getting on the mic
Yeah.
and having to address it. So I do want to acknowledge all of that, and think given that reality, I think that he addressed it pretty well, and I think we're mostly on the same page in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I don't, I just want to kind of make sure that, we're not made out to be the big bad bullies here. Because
Uh,
I think some people saw it that way that are more closely to it. And I don't want, I just wanted to get out on record here.
yeah, yeah, for sure. You know, Zach, he talked a lot about, he kept referring to like friends and family and people from back home in his town in Kentucky. And I guess my question for those people and for his friends and family and inner circle and that now, and this is partially rhetorical, but like, how would you handle this from our end? And I'm talking about this specific situation, right? But I'm also talking about just this season, which has not gone well. And us, like, and I cannot deny that there's been a lot of negativity from you and I, and from us on the show, from us on Twitter, from other people on Twitter. I understand there's a lot of negativity. And I also understand like those people, those are Travis Ford fans. You and I just talked on the last show about how we are St. Louis University Billikens fans.
Mhm.
We want to win. We want to succeed. We want our school to look good on a national stage. And if Travis Ford is the guy to do that for us, great. Like
Because it
that's what we
happens right
want.
now.
That's what we want.
Because it happens this year.
Right.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, that's great because but it's gonna have to happen like
Sure.
reasonably soon. I think, and I know we talked about how we're gonna get into kind of the macro level of the Travis Ford era on the next show, and I don't even want to. No, never mind, forget that. But I think, yeah, I mean, look, like at the end of the day, I stand the Billikens. I stand the logo.
Yeah.
And I stand the players that throw down every day. Like I guess I can be critical of the players, but I'm not gonna sit here and say that they're ruining the team. Uh,
Right.
I'm just not
Unless
like
they're Austin McBroom.
yes, yes, yes. I said no running gags, Peter.
All right. Sorry.
Um, Yeah, I don't I think the interesting thing to me in this was just his, how he kept saying he doesn't get into negativity and I I I don't know. I've seen a lot on the sideline, but um I don't know. What do you think of that? Just kind of that I guess to bring it into again straight back to Billiken basketball, not make it about, you know, him, Travis Ford, the person. Um I mean, the quote that really kind of stuck out to me here was like, um, that's something it says, I've been doing this. Wait, hold on. Sorry. You could say you're the worst, and I'll say, okay, I can handle that. I've been doing this a long time as a player and a coach, but I've never understood. And, people get personal with things that I don't agree with. That's something more about them than you. Be upset, be mad, and mad that we're losing. Absolutely. Wait, okay. He says, I don't expect people to be happy, but there's a way to do it because if there's all Billiken fans, we need the support. We need to get in the right direction. We need recruiting to go right. We need all of that. I've never understood being a fan on the other side of that. I've been a UK fan. I've never been mad when things don't go well. I've never grasped the other side of it, never gotten the negative. It's, uh, I've supported this Like I've been that fan for 7 years now. I was that fan for the entire, I was all in 2019. I drove up to Brooklyn,
Mhm.
15 hours. I've been happy, positive. Things were moving in the right direction. But if things are moving in the wrong direction and I don't think they're going to change, I, I'm a Billiken fan. Again, all Billiken fans. Yes, you need the support. But you're taking for granted the fact that Travis Ford and Billiken basketball are are one.
Right.
They are not, and I'm sorry. Billikens will be here long after you retire. If like I'm not even going to talk about when he does or does not leave. When you retire, Billikens will still be here.
Sure.
I feel like that's a little bit it's a little off topic.
Yeah, and I also think Zach, both with regard to his response and with some of the response from, what seemed to be people supporters of him is I think about our role and what we do, and I don't think of us as like the voice of the fan, in all capital letters, but we are a voice of the fan, and we are a vessel, we are an outlet for that conversation. And I think a lot of what we put on the mics every week is like part of an ongoing conversation with among a lot of people, right? And we're picking up vibes and we're picking up notes from here and there and we're picking up rumors and all kinds of
Plagiarizing a
stuff,
lot.
details. Yeah.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
I
no
mean,
running gag. Sorry, no running
it's
gag.
just, but I mean, my point is like we don't exist in a vacuum, and we're not here to just pump some sunshine or kiss butt of people within the athletic department because we want access, right? And people who have been listening to us for a long enough time know we've had Travis Ford on multiple times, and
And
we've had.
I will be the first to tell him to tell anyone who has came on the show how much I appreciate them.
And it
And
was, yes, and we've had great interactions with him and a lot of other people. But like we just can't sit here and pretend that everything's fine because we don't want to upset them,
the apple
right?
cart, yeah.
Yeah, so I think like we have to be honest, or we're doing a disservice to people who listen to us, and they're just going to stop listening, or they're just going to stop paying attention to us, or we're not going to have any credibility. So I think that the ideal situation for you and I is we want a season like Dayton was having a few years ago before it was cut off by COVID, and they're 29-2 going into the conference tournament and about to get a 1 seed in the tournament. Our numbers would be going through the roof, and we would have a great relationship with everyone in the
Yeah.
program, in the athletic department. We would be viewed positively by everybody because we can just sit here every week and talk about how we're winning and how great things are going, and it would build and build and build, and it would be fantastic. That is our
Yeah.
ideal world, but we can't pretend we're living in that or anything even close to that if we're just not. If we're at right now what feels like the opposite of that. And so I do want to underline like this is not personal, it's just reality. And we have to acknowledge it. And unfortunately, when a situation like this happens, it's another thing that it's like we sat there going, do we ignore this or do we do something about it? And made the decision to do something about it. And here we are. And I guess I do want to before we get into any, sort of larger, a big picture thoughts on this. I do want to extend a little grace note to Shane himself because
Yeah.
I think about myself when I was 20 years old. Shane, so he, I think he's about 20, he's give or take. He's half my age. I have no interest as a 40-year-old man in interacting with a 20-year-old in any, in any format like that, like especially if it's adversarial, right? Like I just I'm not interested in getting into it with anyone half my age who's in college and feeling whatever he's feeling about what I'm saying online.
Yeah.
and him disagreeing with. I just don't have that interest. And I think about when I was his age back in 2003, it was when you think about that, I graduated immediately before smartphones were a thing. I graduated the academic year that Facebook came out. You know, like Facebook came out in I think 2004, and then it spread to all college campuses over that fall and then the spring of '05. And it was still the Facebook, and like you had to have a .edu to sign up for it. Like that's when I was a senior in college, right?
Yeah.
So I was this close to having like a social media record of like the things I did and said in college, and that idea haunts me. Like what an
Yeah.
absolute nightmare to think of myself at 20 and all of the things I said and did that were so dumb. And I mean
Yeah.
like I could sit here and list 100 things that I
Yeah.
regret saying or doing in college without even really thinking hard about it.
Yeah.
And so I do want to I think people who get on social media and make mistakes as a high schooler or in college or whatever, like they deserve a little more patience and understanding and grace from the rest of us because like have some perspective and think about where you were and who you are now and where you were then and what you're going through and they're figuring out who they are
Yeah.
and they're figuring out life and there are mistakes that they have to make and go through and clearly you know uh he made one here. And
Yeah.
so I do want to say like the dude does not deserve anything beyond what's already come
No.
his way.
No.
And like I've got nothing, bad to say about him as a person or anything like that. We just kind of
No.
wanted to put an end to this kind of, the clapback that was coming our way and kind of a, what we
And it
thought was
wasn't really clapback. I wouldn't call it a clapback. I would call it pretty, it was pretty respectful, but I think that some context was missed. So I just wanted to add some context to
yeah,
everything. And,
absolutely.
I mean, I was the one that did the tweeting. So I do again want to extend, not an apology, but some
I don't,
some goodwill, I guess, back
yes.
towards towards Shane. I again, same as Peter here. I think everybody there are a good chunk of our listeners who watched me grow up around St. Louis University, including the man sitting um across from me in this or next to me in the podcast. Peter here. Watched me grow up around St. Louis University through, when I was shorter than, when I was in my, grade school years, in my teenage years, my college years. And they will all sit here and tell you that I was no better. I was not even close to better. Um, so yeah, no hard feelings on my end, and I hope, I don't want to say no hard feelings because that makes me sound like he did something terribly wrong, and but I don't, I just, I hope. Look, man, all I'm saying is this is funny, like in 5 years. I promise you, in 5 years it'll be funny.
I think it'll be funny faster than that. I think it'll take
Yeah, but
less
I
time.
want to I want to kind of get,
Yeah.
I
No,
want
I
to get
understand.
through I want to get through what we think Travis Ford's contract is before it's funny. Um sorry. I can't help it's a joke. Guys, it's a joke. I'm trying to bring levity to something silly, which is insane. Um no, yeah, I in 5 years, 10 years, it'll be funny and on your, you know, bachelor party or whatever, they'll put up a sign on the wall at the Airbnb. I don't know, dude. Like it is what it is. And but I hope you can, I don't think about this, man. Don't think about it.
Yeah.
I spend too much time thinking about those things that I did when I was your age. Don't waste your time. Um,
Yep. Same.
so yeah, Pete, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think it is too, Zach. I think we went through it all. And we all learned something. We all had quite an experience in the last
Yeah.
24 hours and change. And we've got a game. I guess tonight as this podcast drops.
Yeah. And,
And then we're just back to it, man. We're just back to the
yeah.
grind.
Let's hope that let's hope that we're back here on Sunday and talking about 2 wins or 1 win.
Yeah, one
I
win.
still
It'll be one
okay.
win.
Okay.
Maybe three if the women who I think are playing right now
There. Yep.
and maybe they can get a couple wins for us too.
All right, guys. That's it. No outro. That's it.